Just the okay. Great. Well, hi everyone. So again, I'm Marissa. So I'm here to talk about multi-family recycling, and here we're focusing in on New Bedford. And so here are some of our project team members. There are a whole bunch of people that help us out to make all these things happen, but these are the main people. So there's Meg Hebert that I may have mentioned. She's our recycling assistant. Let me move out of the way there. So she's our recycling assistant. Then we have Tom Cabral, who is the district recycling intern. He is a part-time employee. His last day is Tuesday, so we're going to miss him. And then we have Jessica Camarina, who serves in the role of REC, or Waste Reduction Enforcement Coordinator. So she's an enforcement coordinator for the city, but her focus is solely on recycling. And we've been able to continue that position through the RDP funds after receiving the REC grant. So when thinking about multifamily recycling, I feel like, at least for New Bedford, it kind of falls naturally into two categories. We have the 2 to 6 unit buildings. In New Bedford, we collect up to 6 unit buildings. So we're collecting single families as well as these 2 to 6s. And then we have the bigger buildings. So we have the 7 and more, which they have recycling pickup that may be included as part of the city program. These buildings may be privately owned. They also may be public housing as well. There are many properties that get recycling pickup through the city that are part of the New Bedford Housing Authority, which is what our public housing is called. And I'll just add those 2 to 6 unit buildings, they're part of the program. So they get trash pickup, bulky item, yard waste. So they're part of the, the contract with ABC that the city has. They get all of those services. So I thought I would first start by focusing in on those larger buildings. So I did a little bit of analysis. The numbers might be a bit confusing. So I was looking at the bigger buildings. So the buildings that have 30 units or more. So all of these numbers apply to those buildings that have 30 units or more. We've kind of been focusing our outreach on these larger buildings as of late. And so looking at that, we have around 6,100 units in these buildings. And of those, 58% of them are on city collection. So that means they're collected as part of the contract with ABC. I recall we started that off years ago working with Kathy with the MRIC program. That was one of the requirements. So that's how we started multifamily recycling many years ago. And then 21% are in private collection, so private arrangements. And then the remaining 22% are ones that we haven't gotten to yet, so we're not quite sure what they're doing. We do have limited staff, so we're trying to reach as many as we can. We're kind of a little bit on a hiatus with that. We're more into the cart checking for the 1 through 6s, but we hope to get back to that in the winter. And it involves sending one of the enforcement staff out there to first see if they have a recycling program and then work with them to implement that. As I mentioned, recycling is mandatory for everyone in the city. So whether you're picked up as part of the city's contract or you're picked up by a private hauler, recycling is still mandatory.
Is that by ordinance or hauling?
City ordinance. It is, yeah. So then looking at those public housing properties, we've done a lot of work on those. So in New Bedford, in these 30 plus unit buildings, we have around 2,300 units in public housing, and of those, as you can see, 82%, we have a big percentage that are part of the city's collection program, and then about 18% have private arrangements. Often that kind of can depend just on the layout of the building, whether they're part of the city pickup or not, because as part of city pickup, they have to set the carts out at the curb, just like they would in a single family. So we have been working on outreach where we review the do's and the don'ts for all the people who live in these buildings. We have many outreach tools, which I'm going to show you on the next slide. We have reusable bags that we give out to these residents, and then we have decals that we apply to the lids of the recycling carts in these properties. I mentioned Meg, Tom, and Jess. Those are our main team players. They'll go around and knock on doors with the goal of engaging with a resident. We want to have that conversation about what you can recycle and what you can't, and then we leave them with the tool that is that bag, and that also has the information on it. So we've had that chance to interact, and then we leave the information in a really nice way to use. I'll show you the bag in a minute. So far, we've delivered the bags to about 37% of these units. So we keep pushing forward with it. I'm hoping in the winter we'll have a little bit more time to go back to this and get to more and more of these apartment buildings. And so here are the bags that we use. I think I brought one sample with me today. So you can see, this is actually the older model. I'll caution, because some of you may notice there are things on here that don't belong. Our current model of bag actually, fortunately, reflects the Recycle Smart program, the guide. So we purchased in 2015 2,500 of these bags through New Bedford's REC grant, or the Waste Reduction Enforcement Coordinator grant. And then recently, with the start of the IQ Kit program this year, we purchased 5,000 more bags. In the beginning, when we purchased them in 2015, we were thinking a little bit more about these bigger apartment buildings, but at this point, we give these bags to everyone. Anyone who is willing to listen, it's kind of their ticket. They have to listen to our spiel, and then they can get the bag to take with them, but we certainly encourage them to use it for recycling and not for shopping. And then these are the decals that we've made in the past as part of that REC grant. And so the idea is that the bags kind of matched the decal that was on the lid of their recycling cart, but we've made some changes, and we now have a new decal, which is our Recycle Smart decal that includes the new artwork. And so I believe I mentioned that we are now ordering 20,000 of them. They're coming in on Monday or Tuesday, and we are decaling in the cold. Starting the week after Thanksgiving. We're not really psyched about that, but we need to get the information out, as you're saying. I mean, it's so important that we're going to have staff, we're going to have temps out there putting these out. We're buying hand warmers in hopes of being able to keep our hands warm, but we're going to really work to get these out. And it's the same, those nice pictures. We tried to make the pictures as big as possible to say these are the items that belong. And so here we can see fines may be issued for recycling carts containing anything other than the above items. We found, we had a discussion about would we include the no's in this, but the no's are limitless. And so I know we could identify the common, the IQ Kit knows, the bags and the other items, the food, but it just got so complicated, so we all agreed, let's just tell people what belongs in the recycling carts and nothing else. So that project is coming up really soon, and so these decals will actually go over the other decals because those have outdated information. You can see the carton on there, the aerosol. Yep, so a little bit outdated there.
I'm really loud.
No one's sleeping.
Okay, sure. All right, fine. So now we're going to talk just a bit about the other category of multifamily, which are the 2 to 6 units. So these are the ones that are included in the regular collection program. I did a quick bit of tallying of numbers yesterday, and so to give you an idea, 38%, we're looking at the 1 to 6 unit buildings that are part of the program, I'll clarify, 38% are single families, and 63% are multifamilies. So we have a lot of multifamilies, and in our experience with the IQ Kit, we have found that the multifamilies are the places where we need to do the outreach. We've done a lot of looking in recycling carts, and every time we have to pick areas for the IQ Kit, we look at number of violations, all different statistics, and we just always end up in these multifamily areas for many reasons. Language barriers, people are more transient. So we try to work hard on getting the word out to them. And this year in the IQ Kit, we did something a little bit different. We were trying to work with the landlords to, again, get that message out to them about what belongs in the recycling and what does not. And so we started by mailing a letter to the landlords offering them tools and resources and assistance. We also went to a landlord association meeting, which was really fun. It was myself and another person. There were about 40-something landlords in the room. Some were a little resistant, but in the end they were positive, and they actually took the tools that we had there, I'm going to show you on the next slide, some of the tools we had, they all came up and took the tools for their tenants. So it ended up being a very positive meeting. We also, throughout the 8 weeks of the IQ kit, tried to call the landlords of the properties where we left the carts behind as trash. So those carts, they were so egregious, we didn't want them going to the recycling facility. We actually called the landlords to, again, offer help, offer those tools, and then we offered to meet with the tenants. We do that sometimes where we'll go to the property, everyone comes out, and we open the lids, and we go over what's okay and what's not okay. And then here are our tools. So we had a bilingual flyer, English on one side, Spanish on the other. We created bilingual posters here. We had our reusable bags. And then we also have a decal that says no plastic bags. That is so as part of the IQ kit, we created these decals that say no plastic bags in English and Spanish. So our results. Last night I looked at our spreadsheet to tally them. They're mixed results. So like I mentioned, at that meeting, many landlords took these tools, the posters and the bags and the flyers, to give to their tenants. 19 landlords called us. So with these statistics here, we're just looking at IQ addresses. So I made a spreadsheet of all the IQ addresses, and we kept track of it all. And so of the IQ addresses, it's actually landlords of 19 IQ kit addresses called us after they received the letter. 58 landlords of IQ kit addresses were called by city staff, so that's when they had these egregious carts and we called them to engage. And then of those, 44 landlords picked up materials or had them mailed or had them dropped off. So I might like to see those numbers higher, but I do feel like it was positive in our results as shown in our graph. So last slide. So these are our results. Top is 2017, bottom is 2018. So bottom line is that when we're comparing week 1 and week 8 in 2017, our tagging rate declined by 21%. So, okay, but in 2018, our tagging rate declined by 41%. So that means week 1, we're up here, week 8. So the decline is 41% in 2018. So our results are better this year. And I feel like part of it is that interaction with the landlords. It really went well. And the interaction with the landlords also had an expanded effect beyond the IQ kit. Because when they went to the DPW to pick up the poster or the bags, and if they didn't own an IQ kit address, we didn't say, hey, you can't have this. You don't own an IQ kit address. So the idea is that many landlords picked up these items for addresses that weren't IQ kit addresses. So we've reached an even broader part of the city by doing this. Great, so that's all.
Thank you.
Are there any questions? We can take a couple brief questions. No? Okay, so.
Yes, I do. Where did you get your sticker? The no plastic bags?
Tiger Press. We work really closely with Tiger Press. Jamie O'Connell and I spoke often.
He's a good dude.
Very good dude.
I was going to do a quick exercise, but I think in the interest of time, I'm going to skip it. Just about proofing. Sorry, Ann, go ahead.
Quick question for Marissa for the no plastic bags decals. Are you putting those on all the cards that you're also putting the new decals on? Or?
So we purchased 5,000 of these through the IQ kit. One downside, kind of I mentioned, is the thing that these are not measurable. We didn't look at the cards before and look at the cards after to see their impact. So one thing, based on an email from Janice, with these 20,000 decals, we're actually now measuring. Right now this week, I'm checking carts in specific areas, and then we're going to check them after we apply those big decals to see the impact. Janice gave me the idea. Thank you.
What percentage of the money, the budgets for any of these is from the IQ DEP, and what percentage has to be contributed by the city?
The question was, what's the percentage of money from the city and the IQ kit to go towards collateral?
Yeah, or I guess for all of these guys, as I would be interested to, but starting with you.
It's the bulk is through DEP's, the funds from DEP. We purchased the bags, they were probably around $6,000 or $7,000. The part that's also unknown is our time to plan and implement
But
this as
over
well.
90% of
Yes.
this is being covered by the grant.
Over 90% covered by the grant. Any other questions? Okay, quickly, yeah.
First of all, you are my hero.
She's mine too. Mine
She is, you're doing fantastic.
Someone's gonna buy you lunch today, you don't look like that.
The question I had for you is that, have you thought of, I know you've been doing the tags and the whole thing on carts. At most multifamily units, you have corrals where the carts or the trash dumpster is there, or even a single stream container. So my question is, have you ever thought of putting like boards that are how to recycle so that when everyone goes out there, they see that? Because I can see that might be in addition to what you're doing, because face-to-face is very productive, obviously, but I was just wondering if you've ever thought of that idea.
Sure. I know that we have put up posters. I can picture at one or two of them. So Jess is our new enforcement coordinator for recycling. I believe we may have put up this poster that came out of the IQ kit. So not in an organized way. I know we could do better at that. Another suggestion that someone made recently, I think it's from South Carolina or North Carolina, was that they used door hangers. And I was trying to think how we could incorporate that. It almost seemed like if we had the opportunity for a second visit, like if we knocked on the doors and did the bags and then we could do door hangers on the second visit would be another way to get that information out. But that's a great idea as well.
Did you get pushback from your vendor collecting on the door things?
On the
Who was putting those things on the doorknobs or anything like that?
So city staff, district staff, and temps.
Oh, city staff. I see.
Yes.
Doorknobs?
No, they put the tags on the carts.
Oh, on the cards. I see.
Yeah. Last question.
Does everybody use Teams? Does any city or town send people out solo?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes?
yep, yeah, myself. So I mean, we've trained it, so we work with JRM, they do our trash collection and recycling collection. We've worked with them to have their employees identify a bad barrel. We give them stickers, they get to look at it. It's a great relationship. It's going to their MRF. Ultimately, if they want to reject it, they get to reject it. It generates a phone call, somebody goes out and visits with the people, we discuss what's wrong with it. If they're not there, we leave a piece of paper behind saying what's wrong with it, and it goes on. So working with the vendor, JRM, has been great. I know every guy on the back of the trash truck. I know all the drivers. It was required in our contract that they had to give me a cell phone directly to them, so to the route managers. So we have constant communication.
So everyone's gonna wanna look at Marblehead's contract.
Fine. Right ahead.
We noticed when we were going around doing the kickoff meetings that more and more haulers are actually tagging the carts, egregious carts, and leaving them behind this year than we saw in 2017. So the haulers are now working with communities much closer to make sure that that happens.